Hello, welcome to the True Romance Stories channel. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about a marriage that began as a replacement, not from love, and perhaps, somewhere within this story, you might see a piece of yourself. The wedding hall was filled with soft music and quiet conversations. White flowers lined the aisle. Candles flickered gently against tall glass stands. Everything looked perfect, elegant, expensive. The kind of wedding people usually remembered for years. But the bride standing at the entrance felt none of that warmth. Emma Carter held the bouquet with both hands, her fingers slightly trembling beneath the delicate white gloves. The dress she wore was simple, beautiful in a quiet way, but it was not hers. It had belonged to her sister, her foster sister, Olivia, the same sister who was supposed to be standing here today. Emma glanced down at the lace sleeves. They had been adjusted quickly by a tailor 2 days ago. Not enough time to change much, just enough to make the dress fit someone else, just enough to pretend. The wedding coordinator whispered softly beside her, "They are ready for you." Emma nodded. Her throat felt tight. From the doorway, she could see the entire hall. Hundreds of guests, business partners, society figures, family friends. None of them were looking at her with joy. Some whispered, some watched with curiosity, and some looked at her with something far colder. Pity, or maybe suspicion, because everyone here knew one thing. She was not the bride who had been promised. Emma slowly stepped forward. The music swelled as she began walking down the aisle. Each step echoed inside her chest. Her eyes lifted toward the man waiting at the altar. Alex Grant, tall, calm, impossibly composed, the CEO of Grant Holdings. A man whose name appeared regularly in financial magazines and boardrooms across the country. He stood perfectly still in a black suit, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. Not once did he smile. Not once did his eyes soften. He simply watched her approach, like someone watching a transaction. Emma wondered something in that moment. If she turned around right now and walked away, would anyone try to stop her? Would anyone care? Or would the entire room simply sigh in relief that the mistake had corrected itself? She reached the altar. The officiant smiled politely. Alex did not. For a brief second, their eyes met. His gaze was steady, cold, and distant. The ceremony began. Words about love, words about partnership, words about lifelong commitment. Emma heard them, but they sounded like they belonged to someone else. Because everyone in that room knew this was not a love story. It was an agreement, a solution, a replacement. The officiant continued speaking. Emma kept her posture straight, but inside her mind, a quiet question formed. Have you ever stood in a room full of people and still felt completely alone? Then came the moment, the vows. The officiant turned to Alex. Do you take Emma Carter to be your lawful wife? There was a pause. Not long, but long enough for Emma to feel the weight of every pair of eyes in the room. Alex finally answered, yes. His voice was calm, neutral, almost indifferent. Then the officiant turned to Emma. Do you take Alexander Grant to be your lawful husband? Emma swallowed. She knew the answer already. She had known it the moment she stepped into this dress. Yes. Her voice came out softer than she expected. The officiant smiled warmly. But before he could continue, Alex leaned slightly closer. Only Emma could hear him. His voice was low, almost a whisper. The only woman I will ever love. He paused, then finished the sentence quietly. Is not you. Emma felt something inside her chest freeze. For a brief second, the world around her faded. The flowers, the music, the guests, everything seemed distant. But her face did not change. She did not step back. She did not cry. She simply nodded very slightly, because she already knew, and because walking away was not an option. If she did not marry him today, her family would lose everything. The officiant continued the ceremony, unaware of the quiet words that had just passed between them. Emma stood perfectly still. Her mind repeated the truth she had accepted days ago. This was not about love. This was about survival. The officiant lifted his hands. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. The room waited. Alex did not move immediately. For a moment, Emma wondered if he might refuse. But then he leaned forward. The kiss was brief, polite, not cold enough to cause scandal, but empty enough that anyone watching closely would understand. When it ended, the applause began. People stood, cameras flashed. The newly married couple turned to face the guests. Emma forced a small smile. Alex remained composed. Together they walked down the aisle, side by side, but separated by something invisible. After the ceremony, the reception hall buzzed with conversations and champagne glasses. Emma greeted guests she barely knew. Some congratulated her. Others asked careful questions. One woman whispered to her friend nearby, "So that is the substitute bride." Emma heard it. She kept smiling anyway. Across the room, Alex spoke with several business partners. His expression was calm and professional, as if this entire wedding were simply another contract he had signed. Hours passed. Eventually, the guests began leaving. The music softened. The lights dimmed. Emma stepped outside the hall for a moment of quiet. The evening air felt cooler. She looked up at the sky. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to breathe. Footsteps approached behind her. "Alex." He stopped beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he said calmly, "The car is ready." Emma nodded. They walked toward the waiting vehicle together. Still strangers, still silent. As the driver closed the door, Emma looked at the wedding bouquet resting on her lap. White flowers. Simple. Fragile. She wondered what would happen to them tomorrow. Beside her, Alex finally spoke again. His voice was steady. "From today." He looked out the window as the car began to move. "We live like strangers." Emma turned slightly toward him, but he did not look back. The city lights passed outside the window. The distance between them felt wider than the road ahead. And somewhere deep inside Emma, a quiet question formed. How long can two strangers survive inside the same marriage, because tonight was only the beginning? The Grant estate stood at the edge of the city like something from another world. Tall iron gates, long stone driveway, perfectly trimmed gardens that seemed almost too symmetrical to be real. Emma had seen houses like this only in magazines. But now the car carrying her and Alex rolled slowly through those gates as if this place had always belonged to them. Except it did not feel like home. Not to her. The car stopped in front of the mansion. Warm lights glowed behind enormous windows. Marble stairs led to double doors that opened before they even reached the top. A middle-aged man in a perfectly pressed suit stood waiting. "Good evening, Mr. Grant." His voice carried the quiet authority of someone who had served this household for many years. Then he turned to Emma. "And you must be Mrs. Grant." Emma hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Mrs. Grant." The title felt heavy, almost unreal. She nodded politely. "Yes." The man bowed slightly. "My name is Thomas. I manage the house. If you need anything, please inform me." Alex had already begun walking inside. Emma followed. The interior of the mansion was even more impressive than the outside. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, walls lined with art that probably cost more than the house Emma grew up in. But something about it felt strangely cold. Beautiful, but distant. Thomas led them through a wide hallway. "Your luggage has already arrived." Emma glanced at Alex briefly. He spoke before she could ask. "Thomas will show you your room." "Your room, not our room." Emma felt the meaning immediately. Thomas stopped near a staircase that led to the upper floor. "This way, Mrs. Grant." They climbed the stairs. The main hallway upstairs stretched across the house. Large doors lined both sides. Emma noticed one at the end, slightly larger than the others. She did not need to ask. That was the master bedroom, but Thomas walked past it. They stopped at a smaller door farther down the corridor. He opened it gently. "This will be your room." The space was comfortable, neatly furnished. A bed, a desk, a window overlooking the gardens, but it was clearly a guest room, or perhaps a staff room, not the room of a wife. Emma placed her suitcase beside the bed. "Thank you." Thomas nodded respectfully. "Dinner will be served at 7. Mr. Grant usually eats in the main dining room." He paused politely. "Should you wish to join him?" Emma understood. She was not expected to, but she answered anyway. "I will be there." Thomas gave a small bow before leaving. Emma sat quietly on the edge of the bed. The room felt unfamiliar, like a hotel where someone planned to stay only temporarily, which, in a way, was true. Downstairs, the large clock in the hallway struck 7. Emma walked into the dining room exactly on time. The table was long enough to seat 20 people. Only 2 plates were set. She chose the chair across from Alex's seat. The servants brought dinner. Then they left. Emma waited. Minutes passed. Then half an hour. The food slowly cooled. The house remained silent. She checked the clock. 8 o'clock. Still nothing. Another hour passed. 9 o'clock. Emma wondered if she should leave, but something inside her kept her sitting there. Perhaps it was habit. Perhaps it was responsibility. Or perhaps she simply did not know what else a wife was supposed to do. The front door finally opened at 10. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Alex entered the dining room moments later. His tie was slightly loosened. He looked tired. He stopped when he saw the table. And Emma sitting there. For a brief moment, his eyebrows lifted. "You waited." Emma nodded. "Dinner is ready." Alex glanced at the untouched dishes. Then at the clock. His expression softened only slightly. "You do not have to wait for me." His tone was not angry, just matter of fact. He removed his jacket. "A house like this runs on schedules. Mine is unpredictable." Emma gave a small nod. "Understood." Alex sat down anyway. He ate quietly. Emma ate as well. The silence between them felt almost physical. After several minutes, Alex spoke again. "There are a few rules we should clarify." Emma looked up. "First, do not interfere with my work or personal life. Second, do not speak to the media unless my office approves it. Third, do not enter my private office or bedroom." Emma listened carefully. He continued, "Your responsibility is simple. Maintain the appearance of this marriage. Public events when required. Family dinners when necessary. That is all." Emma folded her hands neatly. "I understand." Alex studied her face briefly, almost as if he expected an argument, but she offered none. He returned to his meal. The next morning, Emma woke early. Sunlight filtered through the window. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. The Grant estate. Her new life. Downstairs, the house already seemed active. Staff moving quietly. Dishes clinking in the kitchen. Emma entered the breakfast room. Thomas greeted her immediately. "Good morning, Mrs. Grant. Breakfast has been prepared." Alex was not there. Emma sat alone with coffee and toast. On the table beside her lay several newspapers. One headline caught her eye. "Grant CEO marries substitute bride." Her fingers tightened slightly around the cup. The article was short, but the message was clear. The original bride had disappeared, and Emma had taken her place. A replacement, a temporary solution. Emma folded the paper calmly. Have you ever been given a role you never asked for, and still felt responsible to perform it perfectly? Later that afternoon, Emma explored the gardens. The estate grounds were enormous. Paths curved through rows of carefully planted flowers. Near the center stood an old fountain surrounded by white roses, the same kind that had decorated the wedding hall. She paused there for a moment. The roses were beautiful, but something about them felt symbolic. Perfect, yet fragile. Behind her, a calm voice spoke. "So you are the girl who married my son." Emma turned. A woman stood beside the fountain. Elegant, composed. Her posture carried quiet authority. Mrs. Grant, Alex's mother. Emma straightened slightly. "Good afternoon." The older woman studied her face carefully, not with hostility, but with intense curiosity. They walked slowly along the garden path together. Mrs. Grant finally asked the question directly. "Did you marry my son for money?" She paused. "Or kindness?" Emma did not answer immediately, because the truth was complicated, and because some answers only created more questions. Mrs. Grant watched her quietly. Emma finally spoke. "I married him because it was necessary." The older woman seemed thoughtful. Necessary. An interesting choice of words. They continued walking. The wind moved gently through the rose bushes. Before leaving, Mrs. Grant looked at Emma one more time. "Life in this family requires strength." She paused. "I hope you have it." Emma watched her disappear down the path. That night, Emma walked past Alex's office while returning to her room. The door was slightly open. His voice carried softly into the hallway. Emma did not mean to listen, but the name she heard made her stop. "Sophia," Alex spoke quietly. "Sophia, I am still waiting for you." Emma stood frozen for a moment. Then she continued walking, back to her small room. The door closed behind her, and for the first time since the wedding, Emma felt something sharp inside her chest. Not jealousy, not anger, something quieter, understanding, because she realized something important. She was not only a replacement for a missing bride, she was also standing in the shadow of a woman who still owned Alex's heart. And Emma whispered softly to herself in the darkness, "Of course, that makes sense." But somewhere far away in the city, a woman named Sophia Bennett had just returned home. That night, Emma did not sleep much. The mansion was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt too large for a single person. Every small sound seemed to echo through the long hallways. She sat beside the window in her small room and watched the moonlight spread across the gardens. White roses shimmered under the pale light. The same roses she had seen earlier beside the fountain. The same roses that had decorated the wedding aisle. White, pure, beautiful, and somehow lonely. Emma wondered something as she looked at them. Do flowers ever realize they are only decorations in someone else's story? The thought lingered as memories slowly returned. Memories she usually kept locked away. Because the truth was simple. Emma Carter had not always lived in a mansion. She had once lived in a small apartment above a bakery in a quiet neighborhood. She remembered the smell of bread every morning, her father humming softly while fixing things around the house, her mother laughing in the kitchen. Those memories were warm, but they ended too early. Emma was 8 years old when the accident happened. A rainy night, a slippery road, a truck that never stopped in time. One moment she had a family, the next moment she had none. At first, relatives took turns caring for her, but none of them could keep her permanently. Eventually, the system stepped in. Emma spent nearly 2 years moving between temporary homes. Suitcases, new schools, new rules, and the quiet feeling that she did not quite belong anywhere. Until one day a couple visited the center, Mr. and Mrs. Parker. They were polite, well-dressed, respectable. They already had a daughter, Olivia, but they said they wanted to help another child. Emma still remembered the first time she walked into their house. It was large, comfortable, full of sunlight. Mrs. Parker smiled warmly. "From today, this is your home." Emma believed her. For a while, everything felt almost normal. She shared a room with Olivia at first. They were close in age. Olivia was lively and confident, the kind of girl people noticed immediately. Emma was quieter, but Olivia often took her hand and pulled her into games or school activities. "Look, this is my sister." Emma liked hearing that word, sister. For a few years, the Parker house truly felt like a family, until Emma slowly began to notice something. Something subtle at first, then clearer with time. Olivia was the center of everything. Olivia's school events, Olivia's birthdays, Olivia's achievements. Emma was included, but always slightly to the side, like an extra chair at the dinner table, still useful, but not truly necessary. Whenever Emma received something new, Mrs. Parker would gently remind her, "You should be grateful. We took you in." Emma nodded every time, because she knew it was true. They had taken her in, and gratitude became a quiet habit she never questioned. As the years passed, the difference between the two girls became more obvious. Olivia attended expensive private schools. Emma attended good schools too, but not the same ones. Olivia had piano lessons, dance lessons, social clubs. Emma spent most afternoons studying or reading in the library, not because anyone forced her, but because books did not mind if you were second choice. Despite the differences, Emma never blamed Olivia. Olivia was kind in her own way, but she had grown up knowing she was loved. Emma had grown up learning she was fortunate to be tolerated, and that difference shaped everything. One evening when Emma was 16, she overheard a conversation between her foster parents. They thought she had already gone upstairs. Mrs. Parker's voice carried clearly through the hallway. "Olivia must marry someone worthy. Our family's future depends on it." Emma stood frozen near the staircase. Then Mr. Parker replied quietly. And Emma, there was a brief pause. Mrs. Parker answered simply, "Emma will understand her place." Those words stayed with Emma for years. Understand her place. Eventually, Emma did. She studied hard, read constantly, taught herself things no one expected her to learn. Finance, business, economics. Books became her teachers, silence became her companion, and acceptance became her strength. Because Emma believed something deeply. If you expected less from life, disappointment hurt less. Then the real disaster arrived. The Parker family business had been stable for decades, a respectable manufacturing company. But markets change. Competitors rise. One bad investment can destroy years of work. Within 2 years, the company collapsed. Debt piled up quickly. Loans, legal threats, banks demanding repayment. The house that had once felt so secure suddenly felt fragile. Emma remembered the night everything finally broke. Her foster parents sat at the dining table surrounded by papers. Olivia paced nervously. "We are running out of options," Mr. Parker said quietly. Mrs. Parker looked pale. "There may be one possibility." Olivia stopped pacing. "What is it?" Mrs. Parker hesitated. "The Grant family." Everyone in the business world knew the name. Grant Holdings, one of the most powerful corporations in the region. Years ago, there had been discussions of a partnership between the two families, even talk of a marriage alliance. Alex Grant, Olivia Parker. At the time, it had seemed like a prestigious opportunity. Now it was the only lifeline left. Mrs. Parker explained the situation slowly. If Olivia marries Alex Grant, the Grant family will absorb our remaining debt. They will save the company. They will save this house. Silence filled the room. Olivia stared at her mother. "You want me to marry someone I barely know. It is only practical." Mrs. Parker insisted. "Alex Grant is successful, respected. You would live comfortably." But Olivia shook her head immediately. No, there was someone else. A man Olivia had been seeing secretly for almost a year. A musician. Not wealthy, not connected, but someone she loved. The argument lasted for hours, but in the end, pressure won. Olivia agreed to the marriage, or at least she appeared to. Preparations moved quickly. Contracts signed, engagement announced, wedding scheduled, and the Parker family began breathing again. Until 3 days before the ceremony. Emma found Olivia sitting on the floor of their bedroom, suitcase open, tears on her face. "I cannot do this." Emma already knew. "You are leaving." Olivia nodded. "He asked me to run away with him." Emma sat beside her quietly. "Do you love him?" "Yes, more than anything." Emma looked at the suitcase. "When tonight?" Emma helped her pack. Because even then, Emma believed something simple. Everyone deserved at least one chance to choose their own life. Before leaving, Olivia hugged her tightly. "I am sorry." Emma smiled gently. "It is your life. Go." And Olivia did. She disappeared into the night. By morning, chaos had filled the Parker house. Phones ringing, parents panicking, guests already arriving for the wedding weekend, and the Grant family expecting a bride. Mrs. Parker found Emma standing quietly in the hallway. Her eyes were red, her voice shaking. "If this wedding is canceled, we lose everything. The house, the company, everything your father built." Emma remained silent. Then something unexpected happened. Mrs. Parker slowly sank to her knees in front of her. "Please, just this once. Help this family." Emma felt her chest tighten. Her foster mother had never knelt before anyone. The message was painfully clear. Emma was the last option. The replacement. Again, Emma helped Mrs. Parker stand. She looked around the house. The walls that had sheltered her for years. The family that had raised her. Even if she had always been second, they were still the only family she had. And Emma had always believed one thing. When someone saves you once, you owe them everything. So she answered quietly, "I will take Olivia's place." Mrs. Parker stared at her. "You would do that?" Emma nodded. The next 48 hours moved like a dream. Dress fittings, legal adjustments, emergency explanations to the Grant family. And then the wedding day arrived. The white roses, the long aisle, the cold whisper from Alex. "The only woman I will ever love is not you." Emma looked out the window again. The moon had moved across the sky. In the distance, the white roses swayed gently in the night wind, and Emma whispered softly to herself, I was never meant to be chosen, only to replace someone else. But what Emma did not know, what she could not possibly know, was that Alex Grant had spent the last 7 years loving one woman, Sophia Bennett. And somewhere in the city, Sophia had just stepped off a plane, back in the place she once called home. And soon, very soon, their worlds would collide. Rain began falling late that evening. At first, it was only a soft drizzle against the tall windows of the mansion. Then slowly it turned into a steady storm. Emma sat in the quiet living room with a book resting open in her hands. The large room was dim except for the soft glow of a floor lamp beside her chair. Shadows moved gently across the marble floor as lightning flashed far in the distance. She had discovered this room on her second day in the house. Unlike the formal sitting rooms, this one felt almost human. A bookshelf, a fireplace, 2 comfortable chairs. It was the only place in the mansion that did not feel like it belonged in a museum. Emma turned another page. Reading had always been her refuge. Books never judged. Books never reminded you that you were second choice. Outside, the rain intensified. Wind rustled the white roses in the garden. Emma noticed them again through the glass doors. White roses. They had followed her from the wedding hall to this house. Back then, they had symbolized something fragile. Now they looked almost stubborn. Standing through the storm, the sound of a car engine suddenly broke the quiet. Emma looked up. Headlights swept across the front driveway. Alex had returned. She checked the clock. Almost midnight. The front door opened somewhere down the hall. Footsteps echoed through the entrance. Slower than usual. Uneven. Emma closed her book quietly. The living room door stood partly open. A moment later, Alex appeared in the hallway. His hair was slightly damp from the rain. His tie loosened. His jacket hung loosely over one shoulder. For the first time since their wedding, Emma noticed something unusual. He looked tired. Not the ordinary kind of tired. Something deeper. He stopped when he saw the light in the living room. Then he stepped inside. "You are still awake." Emma set the book on the table. "Yes." The rain. Alex glanced toward the window where water streamed down the glass. He leaned briefly against the doorway as if gathering his balance. Only then did Emma realize something else. He had been drinking, not wildly drunk, but enough that the usual perfect control in his posture had softened. He walked farther into the room. "You read a lot." Emma nodded. "It passes time." Alex gave a faint breath that might have been a quiet laugh. "Time always passes, whether we notice it or not." He walked toward the chair across from her, then stopped halfway. For a moment, he studied her face, almost as if he were trying to understand something. Or someone. Emma felt the weight of his gaze but did not look away. Finally, he spoke. "Do you enjoy living here?" The question surprised her. It sounded almost personal. Emma considered her answer carefully. "It is quiet." Alex raised an eyebrow slightly. That was not exactly an answer, but he sat down anyway. The rain filled the silence between them. Have you ever sat beside someone who was supposed to be a stranger, but somehow the silence felt heavier than words? Alex leaned back in the chair. He rubbed his temple briefly. "You are different from Olivia." Emma did not react. "Different how?" Alex shrugged slightly. "Olivia talked a lot. You do not." Emma gave a small smile. "Talking is not always necessary." Alex looked at her again. Longer this time, as if he were noticing details he had not cared to see before. "You read business books." Emma glanced at the title, still resting on the table. "How did you know?" He pointed casually. "That one. Market strategy. Not exactly light entertainment." Emma folded her hands. "I read many things." Alex nodded slowly. The storm outside grew louder. Another flash of lightning illuminated the garden. For a moment, the white roses appeared bright against the darkness. Alex followed her gaze. "My mother planted those." Emma turned slightly toward the window. "They are beautiful." Alex watched the rain strike the petals. "They survive every winter." Emma said quietly. "Strong roots." Alex looked back at her. And for the first time since their marriage, something changed in his expression. Not warmth, but curiosity. Then suddenly his tone hardened again. "Do not misunderstand something." Emma waited. "If you think you can replace Sophia," his voice dropped slightly. "Do not." The name lingered between them. Emma had expected this conversation eventually. Still, the directness of it felt sharp. But her answer came calmly. I never tried to. Alex blinked slightly, as if he had expected anger or denial. Instead, he found something else. Acceptance. Emma continued quietly. I know why this marriage happened. You do not have to remind me. For a moment, Alex did not speak. The storm outside softened slightly. Rain continued falling, but the thunder moved farther away. Finally, Alex stood. You should sleep. Emma nodded. Good night. He walked toward the door, then paused again. When he turned back, his expression was thoughtful. Not hostile, not distant, simply thoughtful. Why did you agree to this marriage? Emma considered the question, but she did not tell him the entire story. Instead, she gave the simplest truth. Because someone needed to. Alex studied her face for another moment. Then he left the room. Upstairs, the hallway lights remained dim. Emma returned to her small bedroom. The rain continued outside, but something about the evening felt different now. Not warmer, but less frozen. Downstairs, Alex stood alone in his office. A glass of water replaced the whiskey he had abandoned. Thomas appeared quietly at the doorway. Sir. Alex did not look up. Yes. Should breakfast be prepared as usual? Alex hesitated, then said something unexpected. Make sure she has breakfast. Thomas nodded slightly. Of course. Alex finally leaned back in his chair. For the first time since the wedding, he allowed himself to think about the woman who now lived in his house. Emma Carter, the substitute bride, the quiet girl who read business books and waited 3 hours for dinner without complaint, and who answered calmly when told she could never replace the woman he loved. Meanwhile, across the city, something else had begun moving quietly. Sophia Bennett stepped out of a taxi in front of a tall apartment building. She looked up at the familiar skyline. 7 years had passed since she left, but some things never truly disappeared. She held her phone for a long moment before dialing a number. A mutual friend answered. Sophia asked only one question. Is Alex still in the city? The answer came quickly. Yes. Sophia looked out at the distant lights. Then she asked the second question. Is he married? There was a short silence. Then the friend replied, yes. Sophia lowered the phone slowly. Rain began falling around her again. Back at the Grant estate, Emma stood by the window of her small room. The white roses in the garden glistened under the rain. And somewhere deep in the quiet mansion, a question began forming. What happens when the past returns to claim what it left behind? The days that followed settled into a strange rhythm. The Grant estate remained quiet. Almost too quiet for two people who were technically married. Alex left early most mornings. Emma woke before him, ate breakfast alone, and spent long hours exploring the enormous house or reading in the garden. They rarely spoke, but the silence between them slowly changed. It was no longer sharp. Now it felt watchful, as if both of them were quietly observing the other, trying to understand a story that neither had expected to live. One morning, Thomas approached Emma while she sat near the window with a book. Mrs. Grant has asked if you would attend dinner tonight. Emma looked up. Family dinner. She nodded. Of course. That evening, the dining room looked different. Candles burned softly along the table. Mrs. Grant sat at the head of the table with the quiet authority of someone who had ruled this house for decades. Alex sat beside her. Emma took the seat across from him. The conversation began politely. Business updates, charity events, news from mutual acquaintances. Emma listened more than she spoke, but halfway through the meal, Mrs. Grant suddenly turned to her. Emma. Emma looked up. Yes. I heard you assisted with one of Alex's business discussions yesterday. Emma glanced briefly toward Alex. He had not mentioned it. It had been a small moment. 2 days earlier, Emma had been walking through the study when she overheard Alex speaking with a business partner on speakerphone. The conversation had been tense. A contract negotiation with a European distributor had stalled. The partner demanded stricter terms. Emma had quietly written a note and slid it toward Alex during the call. A simple suggestion. Offer them temporary distribution rights instead of permanent licensing. Alex had glanced at the note, then repeated the idea during the call. The partner immediately agreed. The problem was solved in minutes. Now Mrs. Grant watched Emma with interest. Did you study business? Emma shook her head. Not formally. Then, how did you know what to suggest? Emma paused. I read a lot. Across the table, Alex studied her quietly. He had not expected that answer. Mrs. Grant gave a small, thoughtful smile. Books can teach many things. Dinner continued, but something subtle had changed. For the first time, Emma felt that someone in the room was seeing her as more than a placeholder. Later that evening, Emma returned to the garden. The white roses glowed softly under the lantern lights. She touched one of the petals gently. When she had first seen them, they reminded her of fragility. Now she noticed something else. They survived storms. Perhaps beauty and strength were not opposites. Behind her, footsteps approached. Alex. He stopped beside her. You solved a problem worth several $1 million with a single note. Emma looked at the roses again. It seemed like a simple solution. Alex studied her profile. You underestimate yourself. Emma gave a small, quiet smile. Or perhaps others underestimate me. For a moment, Alex had no answer. The night air felt calm, almost peaceful. Then days passed, and something unexpected began happening. Small moments, tiny changes, not enough to call friendship, but enough to break the cold distance that had once existed between them. One afternoon, Emma visited the Grant headquarters, not by invitation, simply because she had been asked to attend a small public charity announcement as Alex's wife. The office tower stood tall above the city skyline. Inside, everything moved quickly. Assistants walking between meetings, phones ringing, executives speaking in sharp, efficient voices. Emma remained quietly beside Alex during the event, but afterward one of the junior managers approached them nervously. Sir, the Singapore investors are asking for clarification on the shipping contract. Alex glanced at his watch. I have another meeting in 10 minutes. Emma watched the conversation for a moment. Then she spoke softly. What is the concern? The manager hesitated but explained. They fear delayed port access. Emma thought briefly, then answered. Offer shared risk coverage for the first 3 shipments. They will feel protected without changing the core contract. The manager blinked. That could work. Alex looked at her. You are doing it again. Emma shrugged slightly. Just reading patterns. Later that evening, Alex asked something unusual while they rode home in the car. Why did you never pursue business formally? Emma looked out the window at the city lights. Because no one expected me to. Alex leaned back slightly. And if someone had? Emma gave a small, quiet answer. Then perhaps things would have been different. Have you ever realized that someone standing quietly beside you may have been stronger than you imagined? Days turned into weeks. Their strange marriage slowly developed its own rhythm. They still slept in separate rooms. They still rarely touched. But sometimes they spoke longer. Sometimes they shared breakfast. Sometimes Alex watched Emma reading and wondered how someone so calm could exist inside a life built on replacement. Then one night the rain returned, stronger than before. Alex arrived home late again, but this time he was not simply tired. He was drunk. Emma heard the front door open and the sound of something dropping in the hallway. She walked downstairs. Alex stood near the entrance table trying to remove his coat, but his movements were clumsy. Emma stepped closer. Let me help. He did not protest. She took the coat from his shoulders. His expression looked distant, almost lost. Emma guided him toward the sofa. You should drink some water. Alex did not answer. He leaned back and closed his eyes. For a moment, Emma thought he had fallen asleep. Then he spoke, softly. Sophia. Emma froze. He continued whispering. Sophia, why did you leave? The words carried years of pain. Emma felt something tighten inside her chest, but she remained calm. She brought water, then a cold cloth for his forehead. Hours passed. Emma stayed beside him. When he became restless, she helped him sit up. When he struggled to breathe steadily, she spoke quietly until he relaxed again. She cooked a simple soup in the kitchen, sat beside him while he ate. Eventually, near dawn, Alex finally fell asleep. Emma remained there a little longer, just to be sure he was stable. When she finally stood to leave, the first morning light had already reached the windows. The white roses outside looked bright in the early sun. Emma whispered softly to herself, Take care of someone long enough and your heart forgets it was never asked to care. She returned to her room, exhausted. A few hours later, Alex woke. The living room was quiet. His head hurt. He remembered almost nothing from the night before. Only fragments. Rain. Voices. A feeling of someone sitting nearby. Emma entered the room carrying tea. You should drink this. Alex looked at her. Why are you here? Emma blinked. You were sick. Alex frowned. Did I call anyone? No. Did I ask for help? No. Emma placed the cup in his hand. You needed it anyway. Alex watched her carefully, but he truly remembered nothing. The moment passed. Life continued. Until one afternoon, everything changed. Emma had come downstairs to retrieve a book she had forgotten in the study. As she approached the office door, she heard voices inside. Alex and one of his closest friends. They were speaking casually, but the words froze Emma in place. This marriage only lasts 1 year. Alex's voice was calm. It was part of the agreement. His friend asked, and after that, Alex answered simply, then I file for divorce. Emma stood silently in the hallway. Something inside her grew very still. She had always known the marriage was temporary, but hearing the exact timeline felt different, more final, more real. She turned quietly and walked back down the hallway. That night, Emma sat at the desk in her small bedroom. A single lamp illuminated the room. In front of her lay a piece of paper, divorce agreement draft. She wrote slowly, not angrily, not sadly, just calmly. If the ending was inevitable, perhaps she should be the one to start it. Outside, the white roses moved gently in the night wind. When Emma finished writing, she folded the document neatly. Tomorrow she would leave. Tomorrow this strange chapter would end. But fate had other plans. The next morning, Alex left for a short business trip. By evening, the house received an urgent call. A minor car accident on the highway. Nothing life-threatening, but Alex had been taken briefly to a hospital for observation. Thomas approached Emma. Mrs. Grant, they are asking if a family member will come. Emma did not hesitate. Of course. She arrived at the hospital shortly before midnight. Alex sat on the bed with a bandage on his arm. When he saw her, he looked genuinely surprised. You came. Emma nodded. You are injured. Alex hesitated. The nurse stepped out of the room. For a moment, silence returned. Then Alex said something unexpected. When they asked who to call, he looked at his phone. Your name was the first one I thought of. Emma felt her breath catch slightly. Alex looked directly at her, and for the first time since their wedding, his voice held something almost vulnerable. Please, do not leave. Emma had not yet told him she planned to, but somehow he sensed it. And suddenly, the carefully balanced distance between them felt fragile, because sometimes the heart begins changing long before the mind notices. And far across the city, another story was preparing to collide with theirs. Sophia Bennett had just seen a photograph online. Alex Grant leaving a hospital, with his wife beside him. Sophia stared at the image quietly. Then she whispered something to herself. So this is the woman who took my place. The ride back from the hospital was quiet. Not the cold silence that had once existed between them, but something more fragile, something uncertain. Emma sat beside Alex in the back seat of the car. His arm rested carefully in a sling. The injury was minor, but the doctor had insisted he rest for a few days. Streetlights passed slowly across the window. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Then Alex finally broke the silence. You came quickly. Emma kept her eyes on the road ahead. Thomas said a family member should come. Alex gave a faint breath. Family. The word seemed to linger in the air. He glanced at her. You were leaving. It was not a question. Emma remained still. What makes you think that Alex leaned his head slightly back against the seat? Because you looked at me differently this morning. Emma felt her chest tighten. She said nothing. Alex continued quietly. I have spent most of my life reading people. It is part of business. He turned his head toward her. You were saying goodbye. Emma finally spoke. You told your friend this marriage would end in 1 year. Alex did not deny it. Yes. Emma nodded slowly. Then my leaving early would simply save time. The car stopped at a traffic light. Red reflected across the windshield. Alex watched her carefully. You heard that conversation? Yes. He did not apologize. Instead, he spoke with quiet honesty. When this marriage began, it was an agreement. Nothing more. Emma looked out the window again. That was always clear. The light turned green. The car continued forward, but something inside the conversation had shifted. For the first time, they were speaking openly, without rules, without pretending. When they arrived back at the Grant estate, the house felt different, perhaps because something inside both of them had already begun changing. Alex walked slowly toward the living room. Emma followed. Thomas appeared briefly. "Doctor says you should rest, sir." Alex nodded. Emma turned to leave, but Alex spoke again. "Stay." Emma paused, only for a moment. Then she sat down across from him. The night outside was calm. The white roses in the garden moved gently under the soft wind. Alex looked toward them. "My mother planted those when I was a child." Emma followed his gaze. "They survive storms." Alex nodded slowly. "Just like you said." The silence that followed was thoughtful. Then suddenly another voice echoed through the house. "Alex." Both of them turned. A woman stood in the entrance hall. Tall, confident, her dark hair framed a face that carried both beauty and determination. Emma recognized her instantly, even though they had never met. Sophia Bennett, the woman Alex had loved for 7 years. Sophia stepped forward slowly. Her eyes moved first to Alex, then to Emma. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Have you ever stood in a room where the past and present collide at the same time?" Sophia finally broke the silence. "I heard about the accident." Her voice was calm, but something emotional moved beneath it. Alex stood slowly. "Sophia." Emma felt as if she had suddenly stepped into someone else's story. She rose quietly. "Perhaps I should give you both some privacy." But Sophia stopped her. "No." Her eyes moved directly to Emma. "You should stay." Emma hesitated, but Alex did not object, so she remained. Sophia folded her arms lightly. "I suppose introductions are unnecessary." Emma answered gently, "No." Sophia's gaze sharpened slightly. "You are the woman who married him." Emma nodded. "Yes." Sophia looked at Alex again. "You moved on quickly." Alex's voice remained steady. "You left." The words carried more history than explanation. Sophia's eyes flickered briefly. "Yes, I did." Then she turned back toward Emma. "Did he tell you about me?" Emma answered honestly. "Yes." Sophia gave a faint, bitter smile. "Then you know something important." She spoke directly. "He never loved you." The words landed sharply in the quiet room. Emma did not react with anger. She simply nodded. "I know." Sophia seemed surprised by that answer. "You know?" "Yes." Emma's voice remained calm. From the beginning, this marriage was never about love. Alex watched her carefully. Something inside his chest moved. Sophia shook her head slowly. "Then why stay?" Emma answered quietly. "Because sometimes staying is the right thing to do." Sophia turned back to Alex. "And you? Do you love her?" Alex did not answer immediately. 7 years of memory stood between him and that question. 7 years of waiting. 7 years of believing Sophia would return. But now she stood here again. And yet the answer inside his heart felt different. For the first time, he realized something. The woman who had stayed. The woman who had waited at dinner tables. The woman who had cared for him during the storm was standing quietly beside him. Sophia continued speaking. "Do you remember why I left?" Alex nodded slowly. "Your family said I was not worthy of the Grant name." Sophia's expression darkened. "Not my family." She looked toward the hallway. "Your mother." Emma's eyes widened slightly. At that exact moment, Mrs. Grant stepped into the room. Her presence carried calm authority. "Yes, I opposed that relationship." Sophia turned toward her. "You told me I would never be accepted." Mrs. Grant did not deny it. That was true. Alex's voice sharpened slightly. "Mother." Mrs. Grant lifted a hand. "Let me finish." She looked toward Emma, then back toward Sophia. "At the time, I believed my son needed a partner who understood responsibility. A partner who could stand beside him when the world became difficult." Sophia crossed her arms. "You judged me." "Yes." Mrs. Grant answered calmly. "I did." Sophia laughed bitterly. "And now he married someone else anyway." Mrs. Grant's gaze rested on Emma. "Yes. And now I realize something." Sophia frowned. "What?" Mrs. Grant spoke slowly. "The woman who stood beside my son during storms was not the one who left." The room grew very quiet. Emma looked down slightly. Sophia studied her carefully. Then she said one final thing. "Maybe you all believe this marriage is real now, but it is not." She looked at Emma again. "He never loved you." Emma met her gaze calmly. "I know." Sophia turned to leave. But before she reached the door, Alex spoke. "Wait." Everyone looked toward him. Alex stood still for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly. I used to believe something, that I could only love one person in my life. He glanced briefly at Sophia. You were that person. Sophia's expression softened slightly, but Alex continued. Until something changed. His eyes moved toward Emma, the person who stayed, the person who showed kindness without asking for anything. Turned out to matter more than I ever expected. Sophia said nothing. Alex stepped closer to Emma. If you still want to leave, his voice was calm. I will not stop you. He knew about the divorce document now, but he did not mention it. He simply told the truth. But if you stay, he paused, then finished quietly. I want to start again. Emma felt her heart beating faster. Everything had led to this moment. The white roses outside moved softly in the night wind. For the first time since the wedding, Emma realized something. She was no longer standing in someone else's place. Now the choice was hers. A year passed. Seasons changed slowly around the Grant estate. Spring rain came and went. Summer sunlight filled the long gardens. Autumn leaves covered the stone pathways. And winter finally returned with a quiet blanket of frost. But the house itself was no longer the same. When Emma first arrived, the mansion had felt like a museum. Beautiful, impressive, but distant. Now it felt lived in. The large windows were often open in the mornings. Soft music sometimes drifted through the hallways. Laughter appeared occasionally at the dinner table. Small things, but small things can change the feeling of a home. Emma stepped outside into the garden one bright morning. The air smelled fresh, and in front of the house the white roses were in full bloom again. There were more of them now, many more. During the past year, Alex had quietly expanded the garden. At first, Emma had not noticed, but one day she realized the rows had doubled, then tripled. White roses spread across the front path like soft clouds of petals, the same flowers that had once decorated her wedding day. Back then, they had symbolized something fragile, a borrowed dress, a borrowed life, a borrowed place. Now they meant something different. Emma reached down and gently touched one of the blossoms. Strong roots? She remembered saying those words months ago. Behind her, a familiar voice spoke. You are inspecting them again. Emma turned. Alex walked across the garden carrying a small gardening tool and a pair of gloves. The sight still felt slightly unbelievable. A year ago, Alex Grant had spent nearly every waking moment inside boardrooms. Now he sometimes spent Saturday mornings in the garden, learning. Slowly, Emma smiled. They seem healthy. Alex looked proudly at the roses. Thomas says I overwater them. Emma laughed softly. He is probably right. Alex crouched beside one of the plants. I read 3 articles about roses last night. Emma folded her arms playfully. Only 3. Alex glanced up. You are mocking my progress. A little. For a moment they simply stood there together in the sunlight. The quiet between them now felt comfortable. No longer distant. No longer cautious. Inside the house, a window opened. Mrs. Grant appeared holding a teacup. Her voice called across the garden. Breakfast is getting cold. Alex stood. We are coming. Emma followed him toward the house. Another change had happened over the past year. Her small guest room upstairs was no longer hers. Several months earlier, Alex had walked into the room quietly one evening. You should move. Emma had looked up from her book. Why? Alex had answered simply. Because you belong in the main bedroom. Emma had studied his expression carefully. You are sure? Alex had nodded. Yes. Now the master bedroom felt natural, not like something borrowed, but like something shared. Inside the dining room, Mrs. Grant sat at the table pouring tea. Alex took his seat. Emma sat beside him, not across from him. Mrs. Grant watched them with quiet satisfaction. You two seem happy this morning, Alex answered calmly. We survived another gardening lesson. Mrs. Grant smiled faintly. Emma reached for the toast. It has been a peaceful year. Mrs. Grant nodded. Peace is underrated. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Mrs. Grant looked toward Emma. The Charity Foundation board meeting is next week. Emma nodded. I will prepare the proposals. Over the past year, Emma had quietly begun helping manage several of the Grant family foundations, education programs, community support projects, scholarships. Alex had watched her approach the work with the same calm intelligence she once used to solve business negotiations. One evening, he had told her something honestly. You should have been running companies years ago." Emma had smiled gently. "Perhaps I simply needed someone to expect it from me." After breakfast, Alex stood. "I need to go to the office." Emma looked up. "Late meeting." Alex hesitated, then asked, "Will you come with me today?" Emma blinked slightly. "Why?" Alex shrugged. "Because I like having you there." Emma smiled. "All right." Mrs. Grant watched the exchange quietly. Then she said something thoughtful. "Sometimes the right person arrives not when we expect, but when we are finally ready to see them." Later that evening, the house grew quiet again. Emma stood on the balcony outside the bedroom. The night air felt calm. The garden below glowed softly under small lantern lights. Rows of white roses stretched across the yard. Alex stepped outside beside her. "Long day." Emma nodded. "But good." Alex leaned against the railing. "Do you remember the night of our wedding?" Emma looked toward the roses. "Yes." Alex spoke slowly. "I told you something cruel that night." Emma remained quiet. Alex continued. "The only woman I would ever love was not you." Emma turned slightly toward him. "Yes." Alex looked directly at her. "I was wrong." Emma felt a soft warmth rise in her chest, but she did not interrupt. Alex stepped closer. "The truth is simpler than I expected." Emma waited. Alex spoke quietly. "The only woman I ever want to marry," he paused, then finished softly. "Turns out to be you." Emma smiled. A real smile. Not polite, not careful, just genuine. Have you ever noticed that sometimes love does not arrive like lightning? Sometimes it grows quietly, like roots under the soil, strong enough to survive storms. Emma looked out across the garden once more. The white roses moved gently in the wind. Once they had symbolized replacement. Now they symbolized something else entirely. Choice. Emma leaned her head lightly against Alex's shoulder. And for the first time since she had walked down that long wedding aisle, she no longer felt like someone else's substitute. She simply felt chosen. The house behind them glowed warmly. The garden breathed softly in the night. And somewhere deep in Emma's heart, a quiet truth had finally taken root. No one is born to replace someone else. Sometimes we simply arrive at the right place, at the right time, with the right person, and that can change everything. Below is the *** English version ** of the closing narration. Keeping the *** warm. Slow storytelling tone, ***, and emotional flow suitable for a storytelling video. Thank you. Thank you for staying until the very end of this story. In life, we often hear stories about love that begin with sparks, with destiny, or with two people who somehow knew from the very beginning that they belonged together. But Emma and Alex's story was different. It did not begin with love. There were no butterflies, no promises whispered from the heart, only a wedding dress, a difficult decision, and a young woman walking into a marriage, knowing she was simply taking someone else's place. And perhaps what makes this story linger quietly in our hearts is not the dramatic moments, but the small ones. A dinner waited for in silence. Someone staying beside you when you are too broken to even remember it later. A quiet suggestion that solves a problem no one expected you to understand. A kindness given without asking to be seen. Sometimes love does not arrive with thunder. Sometimes it arrives slowly. So slowly that we almost miss it. Like roots growing beneath the soil, invisible, patient, and steady. When Emma entered that marriage, she believed she was simply repaying a debt of gratitude. She did not expect to be loved. In truth, she did not even expect to be noticed. Just fulfilling the role was enough. But life has its own quiet ways of changing a person's fate. Not through grand miracles, but through small moments repeated day after day. One person stays, another person begins to see. One person gives without asking for anything. Another slowly realizes how much that truly means. And one day, the word times, replacement times, quietly disappears. Because when a heart finally opens, it no longer measures who came first or who came later. It only recognizes the person who stood beside it when everything was uncertain. There is a small detail in this story that stays with me. The white roses, at the beginning. They were only decorations at a wedding that felt cold and fragile. Beautiful, yes, but empty. And yet those same roses remained. Through rain, through winter, through days when two people living under the same roof were still strangers. Until one day someone noticed something simple. Those flowers were never fragile. They had roots, and those roots were deep. Perhaps people are the same. Sometimes we enter a chapter of life feeling as if we are only standing in someone else's story. Not the chosen one, not the important one, just temporary. But life rarely reveals the ending at the beginning. Some journeys only make sense after we have walked the entire road. Emma once believed she had been born to replace someone else, but in the end, she discovered something much simpler. No one is born to replace anyone. Every person has a place in this world that belongs only to them. Sometimes we just need time and patience to find the place where we truly belong. And if you are listening to this story tonight, perhaps there have been moments in your own life that felt a little like Emma's. Moments when you felt invisible. Moments when you believed you were someone's second choice. Or maybe not a choice at all. But life rarely closes a story just because the beginning was imperfect. Sometimes the quietest beginnings lead us to the most meaningful endings. So if this story leaves behind one gentle thought, perhaps it is this: do not walk away too quickly just because you think you were not chosen. Because sometimes your kindness, your patience, and your decision to stay when things are uncertain are exactly what slowly changes someone's heart. And one day, when you look back, you may realize something surprising. You were never a replacement. You were simply the person who arrived at the right moment. Thank you for listening to this story. And before we say goodbye tonight, remember one small truth. In life, the one who arrives first is not always the one who stays. Sometimes, the one who stays is the one who was truly meant to be chosen.